When we talk about the defensive line, it is really simple. It starts with one guy and one guy only, and that is Pryce Yates, who will be coming off the edge for Carolina, or at least a defensive end spot for the team this season. You go back to last year for him, only saw limited action because of an offseason injury, but still tallied 21 total tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 14 total quarterback pressures in just 340 snaps across 7 games. Of course, Carolina fans should remember him. He was the guy that went off in the game against Carolina in the bowl game, the Fenway Bowl, where he collected 6 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack. It was just a dominant performance. Carolina clearly at that time said, hey, we got to find a way to get this kid to campus, and they did just that. You look at his career as a whole. You go back to 2023 when he was fully healthy and they moved him to that strong side defensive end spot out of a defensive tackle spot. He had 42 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and 30 total quarterback pressures across 12 games. That's the type of production that I think Carolina is expecting out of him this season. And if they can get that type of production from him, you feel pretty good about where this group will be at, even though they don't have the amount of sacks or pressures that you got from a guy like Kamen Rucker during his time when he was healthy.
Yeah, I think it was very evident why Belichick, Michael Lombardi, and this staff targeted him in the portal. Because when they were probably doing some film evaluation, they saw him kicking a lot of people's asses that are going to be on this roster for the upcoming season. And, you really would have thought, man, this would be a really great person to have alongside Bo Atkinson on the defensive line, but that was not meant to be. Bo Atkinson went into the portal and go on somewhere else. But, he is going to be the engine that drives what this defensive line does in 2025. I think, as we dive deeper into the defensive side of the football, I kind of like what Carolina did at linebacker. I think with Thaddeus Dixon in the cornerback room, you probably feel much better about that back seven than you have maybe in years past. But as we know with the game of football, it doesn't matter how good your back seven is if your front four cannot do the job of putting pressure on the quarterback and making plays in the run game. He can do both. And this is a guy that I think with just the way he plays will, make it easy to root for him because he plays with his hair on fire. He plays with relentless energy and effort. And I think, that's something that really attracted him to this coaching staff. And so I'm really excited to see what he does in Carolina blue because after seeing him in UConn blue, he kind of has you salivating at the mouth because, this is a guy capable of being a difference maker. Every Saturday he's on the football field.
I definitely thought that you were going to say you wanted to see him in Carolina blue after he was in UConn blue and made you feel blue during the bowl game. But he definitely is the type of guy that I think Carolina's looking for along the defensive line. Very physical, a bull rusher type of mentality to him. Definitely a guy that, knows how to get off of blocks up front, does it pretty consistently, and is able to make plays in the backfield. And if he can replicate that 2023 season, which to me, there's no reasons to suggest that he won't be able to do that. I mean, he had close to half that production last year, was actually, a little bit more productive from a sack perspective last year in 7 games. You would imagine that span that out over 12 games, 13 games. I think then you're talking about a guy that could put up very similar numbers or better numbers than what he did in that 2023 season. And if you can get that for Carolina, that's really that's ultimately a great stepping stone for the rest of this defensive line. And that's really what they're looking for because the rest of the unit really doesn't have a lot of guys who have played consistent minutes or consistent snaps, rather, still in the basketball mindset here at the college level.